I got to keep my shoe moving. This is my girl dad shoe, the Kobe
Oh,
Bryant special edition girl dad shoe that I won.
you won
I
that.
won it at the BYU girl dad camp.
Okay.
My daughters and I competed in the dance competition
Oh,
and won
really?
it.
There you go.
Yeah,
At a
isn't that
at a
cool?
BYU game?
No, it was literally a 3 day camp
Okay.
called Girl Dad Camp,
Awesome.
and so there were like, I don't know, 1,000 people there, and
And you guys won
we
it?
took home the trophy.
Oh, that's an awesome trophy. I like that. Welcome to the Sellouts. I am James Schramm of Schramm Financial Group, certified financial planner and certified exit planning advisor. Here we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of selling your business and what it takes to get as much as you can and exit in the way that you want. Today we have a special guest, Bubba Page. He is of Influence VC, and he also has grown a lot of businesses and helped other ones grow and eventually exit. So I want to turn the time over to Bubba to talk a little bit about his experience and his history working with businesses.
Yeah, you got it. Well, I mean, the quick rundown, I got my entrepreneurial start in college while I was going to Brigham Young University. I got invited to join a startup. And honestly, I didn't even know what a startup was. I didn't even know the term entrepreneurship. I had no family, I had no friends. Nobody was an entrepreneur in my family. And they asked me to join one of 6 partners. And I'll tell you, the very first thing that we had wrong was we had too many partners. But it was such a great experience as a college student. I traveled the country, got to go to trade shows all over the states, and helped to sell our office furniture. Literally, that was the first company, was Seatability office chairs. I got so lucky. 2 years into it, I decided to sell my ownership to my partners. Again, too many folks. I needed to move on, go get some other experience. I was going to get married soon, so I ended up selling and got 50 grand out of that sale.
As a college
Now,
student, that's
that's as a college student, hey,
yeah.
50 grand, right? The funny part about that is that they could only pay half of it in cash, the other half had to pay in kind. So I got 25 grand worth of office chairs that all of my family and friends got for Christmas that year. And I think I was so cheap that I even had my family and friends pay for the shipping
Oh
to
my
get it to
gosh.
them because it was so much to do shipping.
Yeah.
Oh, it was hilarious. And then I went and got a little bit more working experience managing sales teams
Okay.
and building and managing sales teams for a couple companies. And in 2009, I started a company called Launch Leads, and it was literally an outsourced BDR SDR team. It was an outsourced sales team. So I took my experience that I had done in a couple jobs, and I just built a company out of that same expertise. It was bootstrapped, so no outside funding, no investors.
Did you have any
Ended up
partners in that?
selling. I had no partners until I brought in my neighbor, and I brought in my neighbor who I gave a small percentage of ownership to, and then I ended up hiring a CEO in 2014 to come and run the day to day of the business. And the reason I did that was because I went and did a venture backed software company called Outro.com.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 2014, I got accepted into the Techstars accelerator. Some accelerators that you might know of are like Y
Yeah.
Combinator. Techstars is the second largest in the world,
It's
and
awesome.
so those two are kind of the big bad boys. And I took that venture backed software company from 2014, and in 2017 had to shut it down. Miserable experience. It was the worst.
Why did
Raised
it shut down?
venture. Oh, there's a myriad of reasons. We tried so much under the sun to make it work out. The long story short is we couldn't get product market fit as much as we thought. We even had revenue coming in from clients, but it was a marketplace and we couldn't
Yeah.
get both sides of the market to go. And I was devastated. It absolutely rocked my world. I was lucky enough to have my first startup continuing to cash flow. And it was kind of like an entrepreneur's dream where I didn't have to go to work and yet I still had a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that business continue to thrive, and then ended up selling it in 2020, literally a day before the pandemic shut down the world. I got a wire on Friday. My twins, child 7 and 8, by the way, I have 8 children. 7 and 8 were born on Sunday. Monday, everything gets shut
Oh my
down for
gosh.
COVID. If the transaction wouldn't have happened that Friday, it literally would have never happened.
Yeah.
So a little tender mercy from the man upstairs
That's
to
awesome.
make sure that transaction happened. Um, and then from that moment, I took some time off, but I had been helping my wife at the time, currently divorced, unfortunately. But at the time, I spent 5 years helping her build the pagecompany.com.
Hmm.
And that has a bunch of different products around the social media world of helping moms with productivity, budgeting, and cooking. Totally different, than my previous career experience. But
Yeah.
it was unique.
How much do you feel like you know about cooking and stuff like that? Are you a pretty good cook yourself?
No, no, I'm going to say no. I know how to barbecue and make breakfast. I am trying to now as a single dad. I'm doing my best,
Yeah.
and I'm learning crock pot is my friend, and I still grill a heck of a lot. And you know what? Every so often we got to go out to eat.
Single
That's just the
dad
way
of,
it
you
is.
said you have 8. Is it, how many boys and girls do you have?
8. I got 4 boys, 4 girls, 4.5-year-old twins, all the way up to 14.
Oof, and you finished it
And
off with twins. Good for you. Was
yeah,
that
yeah,
I'm sure that was definitely an unexpected surprise.
it was. Yeah, you know what though? The my kid's mom had been praying for twins the entire time, like
Really?
our entire relationship. She wanted twins, so it came. I guess if you ask enough, maybe God will give it to you.
My wife wanted twins at first. She wanted to start with twins. And I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea to start off that way. And then we had one and she was like, "Oh, I'm so glad we didn't have twins." That's tough. That is raising twins and the feeding and the sleeping and all that. Good for you guys and having
Well,
6 other
having
kids.
having twins and having 6 other kids that you still need to manage,
Yeah,
that was definitely a challenge.
I'm sure.
We'll just
I
leave it at that.
I'm sure. But anyway, so the Page company, you help out with that.
Page
Do you
company.
still help out with that at all, or are you guys completely kind of
No, with
separated
with the
that?
divorce, that is something that she now has, and she's going to keep running. And I started Influence.vc, which is essentially a venture capital syndicate.
Hmm.
The long story short, I was doing angel investing,
Yeah.
and so I was writing checks solo into these different businesses. And I had enough friends of mine say like, "Hey, how come you didn't tell me about this one or this one? Why we want to invest with you?" That I formalized it into something that is more of now an angel group. So now I have a group of people who write checks alongside me. Then we write that bigger check. We go in together into that company.
So
And then the premise.
that way it's just one
Go for
line
it.
item in the cap table. Is that kind of the reasoning behind doing a syndicate like that?
Exactly. It helps the business so that there's only one thing on the cap table. But then also we bring some value add because I spent a decade in the social sphere working with influencers on both the business side and as an influencer. Um, I'm able to bring to the table some influencing strategy, and maybe some connections and things to help that business that we invested in to grow faster. So I spent a decade of my career in the B2B tech world and a decade in kind of the social world. And so I try and leverage that into every investment to help them grow faster.
That's great. That's great. So as you work, as you've kind of been a part of different ventures, obviously as you guys with your syndicate and you guys invest and you yourself have kind of grown your business, I see a lot of companies and business owners that struggle with what their company is actually worth. Some people don't think their valuation is very high at all and they don't think they can sell for anything. I see that all the time with like small HVAC or plumbing companies, things like that. And then I see some companies that think, "Oh, I'm worth, a multiple of 10 times EBITDA," and they're really probably should be in the 5 or 6 range. How do you help owners kind of figure out where their real valuation lies?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people think of the latter. They think they're worth way more than they should.
Hmm.
And you can get a 409A evaluation and get one officially done. Usually they end up coming back a little bit lower than maybe what you could sell it for. But if you're in a services based industry, without like a ton of reoccurring revenue, you're going to be 3 to 5x EBITDA. Like
Yeah.
that's just where you're going to be. If you're like the high flying company that you have insane growth, year over year growth, then maybe you'd get 6x
Yeah.
on the EBITDA. And if you have proprietary patents, something that's very different, that's very clearly differentiated you from another company, maybe you can warrant 7x with the growth trajectory going crazy. Um, but the reality is 3 to 5x EBITDA is where you're going to be, and normally with a services based type company, that's like 1 times revenue,
Yeah.
1.5 times, maybe 2 times revenue. And so most of these services businesses, they really don't have a clue because they hear about software companies sold for 10x revenue. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's like, okay, so unfortunately, there's a game to play in venture capital, and you may have a pre-revenue company get sold for millions and millions of dollars, but it's because they have insane growth.
Yeah. Or they just
Like,
have like a technology, especially like you said in the software industry, where they have a technology that, hey, like a Microsoft or somebody else just wants to snatch that up, kind of own that part of that technology before it gets bigger.
yeah, for sure. So in the technology world, it's definitely different than your HVACs or your service-based companies,
Hmm.
no question. And I think the majority of Americans have built a service-based company.
Hmm.
That's where the majority of our GDP lie,
Yeah.
is in the middle America businesses, which are great.
Yeah.
I think for those who are first-time entrepreneurs, having a service-based company is, I think, an advantage because you don't have the complexities of raising venture, understanding how venture capital works, understanding the dynamics behind it, understanding the fund cycles behind that. And you just go to business and you make a business profitable, you're good.
Yeah.
And you can live a phenomenal lifestyle. So those lifestyle companies, I think, are an advantage to first-time entrepreneurs because you can learn the true principles about business, how to run a successful, profitable company with a wonderful service where you can surprise and delight your customer and take care of people. That, I think, is like, if anybody's contemplating, do something like that. If you're like, no, I'm going to build this amazing app that's going to be the next social media platform, your chances of success are 1 in 1 million.
Yeah.
And you'll find that out when you try to go raise venture capital and nobody gives you money because it's such a small percentage of deals that get funded. The reality, and of those deals that do get funded, most don't succeed.
Hmm.
And so you have all the odds are betting against you. Now, if you're a repeat founder, you've built a company already, you have a domain expertise, you know exactly what your market needs, and it's a bit of technology, then maybe you have a little bit more of an advantage.
Yeah.
But if you're not a technology person yourself, you better dang well partner with the technology person to be able to help a software developer or whatnot to build that for you. Because if you're just going to outsource it to the Philippines or India or something, you're going to be unhappy, most likely, with the results you get because, one, you don't know how to build technology. The outsource group is probably not going to do as good of a job as you would like. And you may have to rebuild it all in the next year anyway. Or you built it incorrectly and it's not scalable. And no VC wants to invest in you if you haven't built a scalable software venture.
Yeah. So when you see these companies, people have great ideas and they just don't pan out. What do you feel like are some of the reasons behind that? I know you had kind of talked about one of your other companies of just not having that product market fit, even though you feel like you have something valuable that people are going to want. Kind of where do you feel like companies go wrong with that?
Well, I think first off, the Field of Dreams movie, If You Build It, They Will Come, does not work in business, period.
Great movie, by the
Especially
way.
if you're
Great
talking,
movie.
yeah, especially if you talk about like technology product. If you think, oh, I just need to spend 100 grand on this app or this website, and then everybody and their mom is going to come and buy from me, you're smoking something.
Hmm.
So the reality is you have to follow, I believe, a method called lean startup. There's a book called Lean Startups, and I highly recommend it to entrepreneurs to understand how to build an MVP, a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
That whole point around a minimum viable product is to be able to get something out the door with duct tape and shoestring. Like you do not need a full-fledged A+ product to get out the door right away.
Yeah.
Most of the time you can do something that just, you kind of have to do it all manually in the back end. And you're kind of like figuring it out as you go because you're just testing the market. There's another term called failing fast.
Yeah.
Just go out and fail fast.
You
Try an idea.
figure out what doesn't work and then move on, right?
Exactly. And if you find something where it's like, oh my gosh, people are loving this, then make it better. And then people love it even more and make it better. You have to think about transportation. So you can drive a Lamborghini to work and that gets you from point A to point B. You can ride a scooter to work, and that will get you from point A to point B. Those
Mhm.
both get the job done. Now, obviously, the Lambo is a lot more fun. It's a lot more power. It's got cool sound, cool colors. And the scooter, yeah, maybe it's not cool, right? But it got you there, even though it wasn't. So you think about, what if you were, as an entrepreneur, don't build the Lamborghini first? Just don't do it, right? Build the scooter. Take the least amount of money you need, the least amount of resources, and see if anybody even wants to ride it. And if
Yeah.
people want to ride it, sweet. Then maybe you build a mountain bike next, and then maybe it's a motorcycle next, and then you might get into some beater truck, and then down the line you can build a Lambo. But like, if you start with something simple and easy, and there's an essay by Paul Graham, who's the founder of Y Combinator. He says, do things that don't scale. In my efficiency mind, everything I do, I want to make sure that it's super scalable and it can go crazy big.
Yeah.
But you need to do things that don't scale at first. The founders of Airbnb, they could not get traction because the pictures of the initial properties that they were doing sucked. They were horrible.
Oh,
So guess what they did? They got on their bike, they got in a car or a plane, they took the pictures themselves
really?
of the properties. They went and did something that did not scale at all to get better pictures on their website. And as traction started to take off, then they started hiring photographers all over the place to take those professional pictures for them. Obviously, now they're a behemoth, a multi-deca-billion-dollar company,
Yeah.
but they did things that did not scale at first, right? And so there's something there to think about. I think, as you're building a company, especially if you're going the technical route, do not spend all of your money building the Lamborghini. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Test a basic product and see if people like it.
I was listening to an interview with Mark Zuckerberg, and he was talking a lot about, obviously they're in a different situation where they've got tons of cash and different things, but they've gone through some big slumps where their stock has pulled back significantly. And he was just talking about, like, one thing that we do is we try to fail as fast as possible. We try to roll something out. It's not going to be perfect, but we're trying to roll something out and trying to figure out where that product market fit is, what people really want, and then they build off of that. But they do a lot of different things just to figure out kind of what the market actually is looking for, and then building off of that. So I don't know if you see that very much with the businesses that you work with.
Absolutely. You got to build small.
Yeah.
And there's very few industries where you have to come out swinging.
Hmm.
And that's going to be like a government contract, right? Like, you can't sell to the military a product that doesn't work,
Yeah.
right? Like, you have to have a full-fledged, or like FDA, some medical product.
Hmm.
You probably can't get a cancer drug to market without it being freaking awesome.
Yeah. It's gonna be
You know what I
perfect.
mean?
Yeah.
So, but there's very few industries that are like that. Most of the time, you can get away with a B plus product, and the market will tell you if they like it enough for you to make it an A plus product.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like
If that
that.
makes sense.
So as these companies grow and they eventually want to get to a point where they sell to, whether they sell to a private equity or to a strategic buyer or something like that, kind of how do you help business owners, or how have you seen, when is the right time to look at really selling your business and getting a good valuation?
Yeah. So the best time is when you don't want to sell.
Well, that's not what you want to hear. You don't want to be selling when you don't want to.
You absolutely want to sell when you think there's a lot of meat on the bone, where you think you like haven't even hit the peak yet, and you're just like flying through. That's when you sell. When you get to the peak, I mean, the timing of trying to get to a peak is practically impossible.
Yeah.
So if your growth trajectory is up, up, up and to the right, that is when the time is to sell, even if you're not like ready.
Yeah.
The reality is, too many of my friends are like, I'm just gonna get to this next thing. I'm just gonna get to this next thing. And then guess what? They tank. Something changes. The macroeconomics change. Something in their industry change. They lose their biggest 3 clients.
Hmm.
Well, guess what? Your valuation just went in the toilet.
Yeah.
And you have to sell to somebody who sees that there's meat on the bone, because the reason they're buying you is because they believe they can multiply it. And if they don't think they can multiply it because you've already done everything you can do, no one's going to want to buy you. And so when you're looking at selling a business, you have to be willing to leave money on the table when it comes to the growth of the business.
Yeah. I
And because the other people have to see that potential growth.
I have a client that he was gonna we talked about selling a year or two ago, and kind of like that. He wanted to kind of make it to that next level. And he ended up this last year, they actually went back in revenue, and they dropped the revenue decreased by like 15%. And so now he's like, I can't sell now because now I look like I'm shrinking, even though they're in a pretty stable spot. But now he's got to get another couple of years of good growth before he wants to sell, so he can get that better multiple. So yeah, selling with the
This
meat.
happens all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
All the time. Like I had 10 years of straight growth in my company before I sold it.
Hmm.
10 years of straight growth, Inc. 5000 3 times, like skyrocket, right? Guess what? I signed an LOI to sell it. And that 11th year
Really?
starts to go down.
Do you feel like that had to do with you kind of pulling back and not putting as much into it, or is that just kind of the nature of the market that you were in?
At that phase of the game, I wasn't involved in the day-to-day at all.
Hmm.
And so, no, we lost a couple big clients. The market was kind of going a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But like literally, if I would have sold it the year before, I would have gotten double the price.
Yeah.
Double.
So how do you not know, like, you don't want to sell too early though. So we've got a mutual friend, Sean Bingham, and he sold his KZ sunglasses company, and he doesn't regret selling it. He felt like for the information he had at that time, it was a good time to sell the company. But right after that, the company just took off. And because they had some authorized dealers in different countries and the Philippines, and things were doing really well. And then they hit that J curve, and the company was just exploding. But it was right after he had sold the company. And you don't ever want to hear this, but the company he sold to, I think they sold to a PE firm, said something like, "This is one of the best purchases we've ever had," because what they paid versus what they ended up getting. So how do you kind of balance that with, trying to sell with some meat on the bones, but not selling too early?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I have two thoughts on this. I had a mentor once tell me, if anyone offers you 1 million of anything, you take it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? That's interesting thought. Because I know Sean, I know the deal well. And for their age and what they were understood, and they took the deal. And you
Yeah.
know what? They were happy.
Yeah.
When they took the deal, they were happy. Now, obviously, when you see that deal skyrocket, sometimes you then say, well, could I have done the deal at 90%, kept 10% in?
Hmm.
Right? There's ways of doing that if
Yeah.
you really see the potential of the business going, but mentally you have to be prepared to say, I'm okay with 90% and never seeing the 10.
Yeah.
Because most people don't see that other 10%, right?
Hmm.
Most deals don't skyrocket like his did.
Yeah.
And so you have to really take that in with a grain of salt. Um, you're optimizing, right? I think there's some financial planning that can be done, right, with guys like yourself,
Yeah.
to make sure that you optimize for the right time to sell. That you maybe worked out the EBITDA margins, and you really try to get as profitable as you could. You look at your ad backs and see what kind of things you could do in that regard to get prepared for a sale. The reality, though, companies are not they're not sold; they are bought,
Hmm.
meaning you don't really get to choose most of the time when you sell. If you get somebody to offer you something, then you have an offer, right?
Yeah.
But most of the time you don't like go to market to sell it. You're less likely to get a deal that way.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, if you have an offer that's coming on the table, try to shop that offer as much as you can before you make a commitment.
Get a little
Because if you
competitive.
commit, yes. Because if you have obviously strategic buyers are always going to be better from a multiple standpoint than a PE firm.
Yeah.
Because PE firms are literally looking at buying and selling.
Yeah.
So they have to buy low and sell high.
And they just strip
But
out,
if
they strip out a lot of your costs and then try to sell for more.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so and grow it, of course.
Yeah.
But if you have a strategic where it's a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario, and what you have to offer really helps to magnify what they have, you'll get a better margin. But you also should know who those people are in your space, so that if you get an offer from somebody, you should be able to immediately hit 10, 15, 20 people within your space and say, hey, we're considering selling. We have a, excuse me, we have a buyer, but we're looking to see if there might be other interest. Now you have to do it before you sign, because typically you have a no shop kind of policy once you sign
Yeah.
an LOI and you start getting into the due diligence.
Hmm.
But creating relationships with those strategics early on can be really beneficial to you, because if they come to know you, people like to invest or purchase from people they know, love, and trust. So if you've already built relationships with some of these strategic buyers, that's ideal,
Hmm.
because then it's just a phone call away to be like, hey, Joe, we've been talking every quarter for the last 5 years. I think it's time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so those relationships can be really valuable.
And sometimes those strategic buyers aren't necessarily just competition. Maybe, like you said, 1+1=2 is they maybe do something a little bit different, but still in the same industry where the,
1+1=3.
or sorry, one
That's
plus
the
one
whole
is three.
key.
That's what I meant. But yeah, where you're doing that, and it helps both companies grow together. And then, like you said, the revenue, what they're going to pay, they're buying for this exponential growth that wouldn't have happened just kind of solo.
Yeah, absolutely. But as an entrepreneur, you have to really think about it. Okay, why is somebody going to buy you?
Hmm.
They're buying you because they want the cash.
Yeah.
They're buying you because they want that profit. They're buying you because you have a technology, or you have key clients, or they're trying to expand into your space, or like, why? There's build versus buy. They're going to think through that, right?
Yeah.
The buyer's going to think, can I build what you have? How long will it take me? And if I can do it for cheaper and faster than what it's going to take to buy you, then they'll just go build it.
Yeah.
So there is a threshold. Like if you're like, no, I'm worth $10 million, and the buyer's like, you're worth 5, man. They're never going to get you to the 10.
Yeah.
They may go up to 5.5 or 6, but they're never going to get you to 10. Like if you're thinking you're worth such a wide difference, these buyers have to know that they can't build it faster or cheaper than buying it from you.
Yeah. So when
And if oh, go for it.
Oh no, I was going to say. So when you're talking to these business owners, or when business owners are thinking about it, when should they look at strategic versus PE versus kind of just a third party, just kind of locally, or an outside buyer? Like, what are the things that they should consider? Obviously, IPO is a completely different story, but you know, there's pros and cons to each one. What should these business owners be thinking about when they're looking at the different buyers that are out there?
Well, I think first off, they need to look at their numbers, right? So if they're a million in EBITDA, that's like phase one of somebody potentially being interested in buying.
Hmm.
If you can be 3 to 5 million in EBITDA, you are a much prettier girl at the dance for a lot more buyers.
Yeah.
3 to 5 million in EBITDA is like a fantastic spot. And then obviously, if you're 10 to 20, you're in a whole different echelon, because now you've got real big players that can see that 10 to 20 turning into 100 or 200.
Yeah.
Right. So when people buy you, they're looking at a 5 to 10x multiple. Meaning they want to achieve that from their invested capital in you versus what they're going to end up with in the future. They want that 5 to 10x. And so those numbers, though, you have less buyers at 1 million EBITDA, a lot more at 3 to 5 million, and even it's the most are in 3 to 5 million, because you're at it's easily digestible.
Yeah.
Once you get to the 10 or 20 million in EBITDA, you have fewer buyers. They're stronger buyers, but you have fewer,
Hmm.
because they got to write a big check.
Yeah.
Right? They got to write a $50 to $100 million check, and that makes it very difficult for a lot of people to do. So when entrepreneurs are looking at selling, I think having the mindset of, number one, you're building not to sell. I know there's a book called Built to Sell, and there are great principles within that book, Built to Sell. I think it's important that you're building a business to be profitable and growing and take care of your customers. That's number one.
Yeah.
Selling will come when the timing is right, and when you're appealing to other people. But your building, number one reason is to make a phenomenal customer happy and be profitable and growing.
So how do you kind of balance that, the profit versus the growth, right? Because a lot of times, in order to grow, you're spending a lot of those profits into that growth, but you also want to be attractive to a buyer to be able to say, hey, we actually have good margins. So kind of, how do you see companies should balance the profit versus the growth?
That's an introspective question for the entrepreneur. Are you building a lifestyle business,
Hmm.
or are you building a growth business? Because they are at odds
Yeah.
with each other. Because if you're growth at all costs, then you don't care about profit and you're going to just put everything into growth. And maybe for the different types of for tech, for venture backed, most of the time that's how they roll, because they know that any type of revenue, doesn't even matter if they have any profit, EBITDA at all, any type of revenue, they're going to get a multiple on revenue. So sometimes it's growth at all mindset. For the majority of you that are probably listening, you're in more of a service-based, a profitable company. If you're doing that, you've probably built a lifestyle venture. And there's nothing wrong with lifestyle, even though they don't really hit the magazine covers very often. That's for like the sexy VC-backed companies. You have to realize the value you have. I didn't realize and recognize the value that I had built in the services-based company, because I was taking home $500,000 a year in a salary, even when I wasn't working there. That does not come along very often. It is amazing. And that didn't even include all of the expenses I was running through the business.
Yeah.
I probably had another 200 grand in expenses a year running through the business. So I'm clearing 700 grand a year from my little company. Holy crap. Like,
Yeah.
how are you going to get that back in investments?
Mm-hmm.
So what the VC tech companies have to do is they have to say, I'm going to make nothing, almost nothing for 5 to 10 years, hope I'm going to sell it. And when I sell it, I'm going to get that cash, and then I have to invest it into other people in order to create dividends of 700 grand a year.
Yeah.
Well, you better have 10 million after taxes, after donations, to be able to generate, 10% a year. Well, 10% at 10 million is $1 million a year. I was making almost that just with my cash flow business.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have to be there, because I built a scalable company that had a great team with systems and processes in place. I literally didn't have to go to work, and I made that kind of cash. So I think most people, though, they think, oh, I need to raise venture, I need to raise capital, I need to do the investor route, I need to build a tech company. Please, people, services-based companies will build a phenomenal lifestyle for you. If you can clear $500,000 to $1 million a year in your service-based company, why would you sell?
Yeah. Especially if you can take
Why?
yourself out of the business, right? Where it's a legitimate business that has processes and things like that, where you can take that step back like you did and then live that lifestyle. But if you're grinding 60, 70, 80 hours a week to make that, it's a kind of a different story, right?
For sure. And the reality is, I know a lot of entrepreneurs think that they are the linchpin, that if they leave, their whole business is going to fall apart.
And they're not.
You're kidding yourselves, right? Like, there are better operators than you out there.
Yeah.
And you just need to find them.
Yeah.
And you can train them and set systems and processes in place. Now, of course, people have failed at trying to bring in other people to run their business. I get it. And it's scary. It's your baby. I totally get that. But the reality is, so I had to go through 2 different people before I found the third person that worked. And so it's not perfect, but I figured it out and was able to get that person in place. And they grew it even more than I did when I was in the seat. Now, there are different people who take it from 0 to 1 and 1 to 10.
Yeah.
And 0 to 1 might be you, might be the entrepreneur. And you're like the grinder who did it with no money in the bank, and you just figured it out, and you were just But the person who's going to take it from 1 to 10, or then 10 to 100, it might be a different person. It might not be you as the entrepreneur. And you have to realize that you may not be the right person, and that your business can grow even better and faster and more profitably if you hire somebody with the 1 to 10 or the 10 to 100 mindset.
Yeah. And so when you went through those people, how quickly did you realize, hey, these first couple just aren't what I'm looking for, right? They're not the person to take me from 1 to 10 or 10 to 20, whatever that number is for you. Was it, did you feel like you did it it took too long to get through those, or did you do it pretty quickly?
So typically with any new employee, I always put them on a 90-day trial. I just want to see how they work with the team, see if they are a cultural fit, and if they have the skill sets they sold me on in their interviews. But when you're hiring somebody at this level, a president, a CEO, it's going to take about 6 months, because that initial 90 days, they're just learning the ropes. They're learning your business. They hopefully already have experience in the industry, but they're learning how you run that business, and then they're looking at how they can improve it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to find somebody who can see and do and execute on your process, and then come to the table with improvements and even make it better than you. Like, you need to hire an A+ player, not a B-.
Yeah.
And this is like to prove your entrepreneurial abilities of recruiting and hiring and retaining this type of a person. So typically you're going to have a pretty good salary, plus you're going to have an equity component. And usually you'll do a 4-year earn, sorry, a 4-year, not cliff. What is the term on my,
You talking about
oh
vesting?
my gosh, thank you, vesting. Okay. So, so typically what you're going to do is you're going to have a 4-year vesting schedule
Yeah.
with that new executive and with usually a 1-year cliff. So if they leave within that first year, you don't have any equity, responsibility. And then you have to have a written down very specific job description of what you want them to do and expectations that are very, very clearly written out. Before you hire this person, you better dang well have some manuals, some processes, and some systems in place that they can follow, which means you have to figure that out on your own first. Since you're the boss, you're the entrepreneur, you're the one who's been doing it forever, you should know how to do it best. Now you're hiring this A+ player to hopefully bring some other additional skill sets to the table. And they may have an opportunity of improving on even what you have done. That's ideal. I found in the first 6 months with the first hire, it just wasn't a fit.
Yeah.
There wasn't enough drive and there wasn't enough passion and energy to do it. The second hire was phenomenal. I would have kept him in a heartbeat, but he got picked off
Oh man.
and he got double the salary I was offering him. And I was like, you know what? I high-fived him out the door because I couldn't compete.
Yeah.
Then the third one, he came from industry. He had success. He was a VP at another company. So to come into a CEO president level was exactly what he was looking for.
Yeah.
He wanted to take that next step in his career. And then I gave him 12% equity in the business, vested over 4 years. And he earned that. He absolutely earned it because he crushed it. He did a great job. He continued to grow the business at even a faster clip than I did. And he worked well with the team. He was able to hire and retain all the right things that a CEO should be able to do and manage the finances kind of thing,
So, what kind of things are
that
you
gives you an
looking
idea.
for when you are hiring somebody? So, this just as you're talking about these types of people, right? We both went to a unfortunate funeral of a friend of ours, Justin Bingham, and he just was like to me, I just left so inspired as you hear story after story of just what a great, inspiring, positive person that can be, that can elevate those around him. That was like one of the things that he was just awesome at. So when you're looking to hire somebody like this, I mean, what are you looking for to fill in these, fill your shoes as the next CEO?
Yeah, good question. I am a more sales and marketing oriented CEO. That's where more of my skill sets come in.
Yeah.
And so I always bring a COO or VP of ops into the table who are more process and systems oriented. And that's just how I roll. So I know that if I'm replacing myself, I need to find somebody with similar skill sets and traits
Hmm.
because I've already built a team or should have already built a team around my skill sets. And I want the person that comes into my skill sets to blend well with the other team. Because if I bring a more of an operator and I already have an operator, are they going to work well together?
Yeah.
Is one person going to, so I think it varies based on who you are as an entrepreneur and what you're trying to replace within yourself. Now, like I said, you can hire people who are better at this job than you are.
Yeah.
And you should try. Somebody who has more experience, who's been in the industry longer, who has something unique to bring to the table, like specific connections or network. Those things can be super advantageous and very motivating for both you and that new executive. A lot of it's going to come down to who you know, like, and trust as well. Like you want to be able to know and trust this person with all your heart because they're going to be dealing with your baby and you're
Hmm.
not going to be involved in the day-to-day anymore as much. You maybe do a day a week or like the 4-hour work week situation. But if you hire a CEO or a president to come in and run the business day to day, you cannot stay.
Yeah.
It's bad blood, right? Like if you stay as the founder, and like when my venture back company failed, I had the opportunity to go back to my old services company and come back as the CEO. I was already the chairman. People knew that I was the owner, but I knew that if I stepped foot in that office with the current CEO president that I had hired, knowing that I'm the founder owner, that would cause problems.
Yeah.
People wouldn't know who to go to, who to turn to, who to get approval from. And so it was hard, but I decided to walk away from the day to day and continue to allow him to run. Now he earned that trust. And so he continued to do it. And by the time I had come back, I didn't even know half the team anyway, right? Or even 80% of the team I didn't know personally anymore because he
Yeah.
had done a good job of recruiting and
Yeah.
growing the business. So, I think this is where where we're looking at, as an entrepreneur, knowing who you are and your skill sets, also being humble enough to know who you're not. And that's where some people, you may be the 0 to 1 guy, you may not be the 1 to 10 guy,
Yeah.
or the 10 to 100 guy. And you have to know that. Like, I'm not the 10 to 100 guy. I'm not going to take this company from 10 million to 100 million. That's just not me. Most likely. Um, can you learn that skill? Can you hire coaches and help you to get there? Yeah, people have done it. But it's not as common as you might think.
So when you gave your CEO equity in the company, how did you come up with that percentage of? I think you said 14%. Like, at what level of comfort do you feel giving equity to somebody? Obviously, you said you put a cliff in there, so that way in the first year they didn't get anything. But how do you feel comfortable just handing equity over to somebody that's never really worked for you before?
Yeah. So to clarify, it was
Oh,
12%.
it's 12. Yeah, sorry.
But yeah. So giving him 12%, I basically have a lever, a lever or a weight system. Depending on how much salary you want, you'll get less ownership.
Hmm.
Or your on target earnings. It's like this.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to go to work for 80 grand a year, you're going to get higher equity. If you need 300 grand a year, you're going to get lower equity, period.
Yeah.
And then I did do it on a salary plus bonus based on performance.
Yeah.
And so, I think I started him at like 200 grand in salary, and then he earned up to 300 grand.
Great.
And so that was a solid salary for him, right?
Yeah.
And plus the equity component. Now, obviously, he was an A+ player,
Yeah.
and he did a better job than I did of taking it to the next phase. And I'm so grateful for it because I was able to sell at a certain point, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I was also able to go try my hand at this venture-backed software company. I couldn't have done if I stayed as a CEO of that company. And even though that didn't pan out, the learning, the network, the experience was why I'm doing venture capital now. Honestly,
Yeah.
it gave me that experience and that introduction into a new world I didn't even know about.
So let's talk a little bit about influence VC. What types of companies do you guys invest in?
Primarily product and technology companies. So because we bring in the added value of influencer strategies or influencers themselves,
Hmm.
a consumer product company works really well for influencers. Now, there's an untapped market in the B2B world for LinkedIn B2B influencers. I feel like it has not been hit very hard. And that's definitely one area I want to help focus on. So some of the companies I'm looking at, they're going to be either B2B tech related or consumer tech or consumer product, consumer tech. And I don't necessarily care what stage they're in. I've done a $200 million revenue company and bought secondaries, which are, stock from founders or early employees. And I've done pre-revenue companies. But primarily, I love investing in repeat founders, people who have already done something. Now, it doesn't mean I won't look at a first-time founder, but all the other things have to be aligned, right? They've got to have great traction. They got to have good growth. The user experience of the product has to be fantastic, or at least on its way there. And then if I can help with my value add of bringing some influencer strategies to the table, then that's where I'm looking at mostly. So post revenue is ideal. Repeat founder is ideal. And in an industry that I have some level of experience in would be ideal. I'm probably not going to invest in a gov tech
Yeah.
business or healthcare just because I don't have experience in that regard. But a lot of the other areas I can hopefully bring something to the table.
Well, I appreciate your time today. I do want to. We talked a little bit about this before we started recording. You got the shoe behind you, that's spinning. It's a Kobe Bryant girl dad shoe. I know your kids are really important to you. What kind of drives you in your life in the success? Obviously, you've been very successful in a lot of different things, but what drives you? Just kind of your personal motivation on a day to day.
God is my motivator. That's my number one. I mean, I think I try to put him first above all else, right? I think uh, as long as you put God and Jesus above, then you look at everything else from that perspective. And it's something that oh, hold on, give me one quick second. My son's calling me, and it's interrupting this part of the deal. 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
Um, sorry.
No, no, you're good.
Actually, let me send.
Yeah, send a message. I'll re-ask that question.
Okay, 1 second. Yeah. Okay. Um, last one. Okay. Go ahead. Pass that question.
Yeah, no worries. So obviously, we talked a little bit about that shoe behind you. It's a Kobe Bryant Girl Dad shoe, which I think is awesome. I like how it spins there. It's like floating in the air. But what? Yeah, I know family's important to you. Follow you on social media and things like that. I know your family is, one of the main components in your life. But what on a day to day really kind of drives all? You're in a position where you probably don't need to work a ton anymore, but you still seem to be very active in trying to grow and become more. So what drives you on a day to day?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's faith, family, fitness, finance, the 4 F's. So you've got my God, who's my number one. That's my rock. That's my redeemer, my salvation. Like everything is going to be based around what I'm learning from God and Jesus, from Scripture. I'm a religious person. I believe in the higher power. I believe in what I read in the scriptures. And so for me, it's that faith, which is that number one. That honestly is what helps me to get through the hard times because we all face them. We
Hmm.
all face the trials and challenges in life. I just went through a divorce and it was a hellish experience. Like I don't know how people can go through that without having some connection to a higher power and a higher purpose.
Yeah.
And for me, God and Jesus, that's it. And it really gives me a different perspective on life to have light at the end of the tunnel, to be hopeful and have faith that my future is still going to be amazing and that my kids will be okay throughout this process. So that's for sure. Family is 100%. I'm dedicating all my time, right, to be able to build up my kids the best way I can, to invest in them. There's a book called How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen.
Hmm.
I'm a huge fan in making the greatest investment of your entire life is going to be your children. Your children, it's a 30-year window. You don't even get to see what they become for 30 years, but you're daily investing in these children. You think about what impact you can have as a father. I'm writing a book right now called Fatherhood and Entrepreneurship.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
building a whole movement around this cause. It's called fatherhoodmovement.com. Hopefully by the time this goes live, my website will be live as well.
Okay, we'll
And it's
promote it.
about teaching fathers to understand their value and their importance. Another book that I love is called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. And it shows all of this research backed science of the impact that fathers have on their daughters, and that it's so hugely important in the daughter's life to keep them from promiscuity, to help give them confidence, to help them in their future relationships in their lives. I've been going through a bit of a healing process myself. And the reality around healing is a lot of it comes from our childhood, the trauma or the wounding
Yeah.
that we have inside that keep us from becoming our best self are these wounds that we've received. And if we don't dig deep and receive healing from these wounds, from the greatest healer of all time, Jesus Christ, if we cannot receive that type of healing, we will have stunted our growth. And if we stunt our growth, that means we're generationally stunting our children and their children's children's growth. And it takes somebody like you and me to take a stand and say, no more. I will not be this generational problem that is not going to reach my full potential. You can wake up to the realization of your current situation and see that you can do better than the people in the past,
Hmm.
that you have the chance to heal, that you can truly, truly become what God wants you to become and fulfill your mission that I believe we signed a dotted line contract before we even came to this earth. I believe we are spirit children of our Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. And before we came, we literally said, okay, I'm going to come down to earth. I'm going to receive a body. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to have children. I'm going to be the best dang father I can be. And I'm going to try and make an impact on the world for good. And work makes money. And are we supposed to work and provide for our families? 100%. As a father, we need to be the provider for our family. But is that the absolutely most important thing you can do in your life is work? Hell no. It's to be a father is to be a son of God and to help bring people to Christ. Honestly, again, I'm on a soapbox. You can tell I'm passionate about it, but
Oh, it's
it's
great.
something that I've had to come to know, because the first 10 years of my career, I was all about the fame. I was all about the money. I wanted to be on the cover of the magazines. I wanted to win the awards. That was what was most important to me. Those things changed about a decade ago for me.
Hmm.
And it was like an awakening process of me realizing that, holy crap, that's not what this world is all about. Like, don't get me wrong, abundance, I believe in that. Are you able to have nice things? And can you make money and sell companies? Of course. Am I investing today to be a good steward over the talents that the Bible talks about, the talents that I've been given, and multiply those talents to the best of my ability? 100%, I'm going to be a good steward. And there's a book Dave Ramsey put out there. It's the title of it. It's like a biblical based strategy to wealth creation. And he just uses scripture after scripture after scripture about how we are meant to be successful. But what we do with that success is what really matters. If it destroys your family, you failed. If you do it for your own pleasures, you've failed. If you're not helping your fellow men, clothing the naked and healing the sick, and mourning with those that mourn, you have failed. And it's so sad, which is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this book, Fatherhood and Entrepreneurship, and the fatherhoodmovement.com. This whole process around building up fathers to become who God wants them to be. And the best example we have of this divine masculine nature that we are is Jesus.
Yeah.
I know I keep shouting his name, but it is him. He's the one who gave us the example to live off of, to become like him. That's all he asks. He doesn't say, you do you. He doesn't say, yo, go buy that thing and forget the person next to you. He says, come follow me. He says, become like me. He says, love your neighbors as you love yourself. Well, you can't love yourself if you're not healed,
Yeah.
right? He wants us to come and be obedient to his commandments, to serve and love one another, because that's who we are. We came to this earth with a purpose, and that purpose is to become like him so that we can return to him one day and be able to take our families with us in that whole process. So, and this is my soapbox preach, right? I'm preaching to the choir here, but
No.
I feel like this is where I am moving my career,
Yeah.
and I'm even taking influence VC, and I'm putting that in and creating a team around influence so that I can spend a lot of my time also around fatherhood movement
Yeah.
and this fatherhood and entrepreneurship book, because I'm just so passionate about it, and I feel like that's what God is calling me to do.
I think that's awesome. I agree with you 100%. I don't think there's a greater calling in life than being a father, right? I don't have 8 kids. I got 3, but the impact and like you said that, I think about I haven't gone through therapy or anything like that, but I do know that there are childhood scars and not that my parents did anything on purpose, but there's just like you said generational things that happen. And I want to make sure that I am not passing on those same wounds or things onto my kids and trying to help them become happier and healthier people at all times. So I love
And
that.
let me just one last statement so that you guys can kind of get the idea. Most men are in your boat. They're like, I had a good childhood. I don't feel like there was anything traumatic in my life. Most people are like, well, I haven't been to therapy. I got nothing, I'm doing great. I'm fine. The reality is every human on planet Earth has some level of trauma, maybe too strong of a word,
Yeah.
but has some wounding from our childhood. And it may not be what happened, it may be what didn't happen
Hmm.
that caused something. And how you'll know that you have some kind of wounding is when you're triggered. When something happens in your life, your spouse says something to you that just dagger to the soul, you're triggered.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't her fault. She just said something because she was sharing an emotion with you.
Yeah.
And the reason why it dug so deeply into you and how you reacted potentially in a defensive way or shutting down or, conflict was because you have a wound that you have not healed yet. And if your spouse has ever said something like, look, I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore, it's because you're dealing with wounds
Yeah.
and you're not in a position to be able to hear and feel the emotions that maybe she needs you to feel and hear. If she's ever asked for separation, if she's asked for divorce, these are key triggers that need to awaken the man to realize he's not whole and that there needs to be healing to take place because we can't change other people. We can only change ourselves.
Yeah.
And so when something like that comes from the person you love most, you can't point fingers. You can't turn around and say, but what about you? What about this? And what about, no, you look inward and you say, wow, okay, that hurt a lot.
No, I
I need
think
to think about that.
I love this. I think we need to talk more openly about these types of things, and I'm glad that you got on your soapbox and opened up about this. I think it's something that we can all learn from. But I want to be
Well, I
respectful of
hope
your
the book
time.
I'm writing can do a good job.
Yeah.
I hope the book I'm writing can really help people with this.
Yeah, let me know when it comes out, and we'll promote it, and we'll put it on the page for this podcast, and make
I
sure that
love
the
it.
word gets out there. I think you're doing a great work, Bubba. I appreciate you hopping on. Anything before we close here? Two things. Number one, what are you reading anything or doing anything right now that's kind of expanded your mind that you've really enjoyed?
Yes. I'm an avid reader. I absolutely love it. So, in order for men to be able to feel some of the healing and understanding their own selves right now, I think it's very valuable for people to read a book called, well, there's a bunch of books. So, Attached is a book that talks about attachment styles,
Okay.
and we create that attachment style based on our childhood and the wounding that we received in our childhood. And it affects our adult relationships and our adult ability to become who we need to become. So the book is called Attached. So there's another book called The Masculine in Relationship. And it helps to talk about how you become a truly masculine man. Now, this does not mean beards, muscles, and tattoos or guns and whatever, right?
Yeah.
This is truly inside how you become masculine, how you can be a safe place for the feminine to share that emotion. And if you think about it, it's like women are more like water, they're flowing. And maybe it's a tempest storm that's tossing, or it's cool and calm. We have to be the bowl to hold that water, no matter, hold space for that water, no matter what that feminine is doing, whether it's raging or storming or calm.
Yeah.
If we can't hold that space, they don't feel safe and secure. They don't feel seen and heard. And we will create a disconnect. Vulnerability is the key to connection. This isn't just for marriage. This is for business. This is for your bros. Vulnerability, true, honest, heartfelt vulnerability is the key to that connection. And that's hard, especially for men, to talk about things they struggle with. So attached, the masculine in relationship. There's another one that's called How to Do the Work. This is stuff that us men really need to hear. And I know this is off the entrepreneurial path that
It's all
we've talked
good.
about. The other one I would suggest with the lean startup, if you're trying to get a company going or to try and be more scalable faster, Lean Startup is a great book. And then let me finish. If you are married and you want to build the best relationship you can with your spouse, I would also highly suggest you read a book with your spouse called Secure Love.
Hmm.
Secure Love by Julie Menino. And the reason for that is we all have insecurities, just like we all have wounds. And those insecurities are based upon the wounds, and we are trying to become secure. Your spouse has insecurities, you have insecurities. The reason you take and get triggered is based on those insecurities or those wounds.
Yeah.
This book helps you to understand each other's wounding better and understand each other's potential for insecurities and to help you become more secure. And honestly, I think it's one of the most valuable resources out there in the market right now, other than God himself and
Yeah.
scriptures. That type of a book is going to be phenomenally impactful in your life.
That's great, Bubba. I appreciate it. Well, how can our listeners get in contact with you or get affiliated with you? Or I wouldn't say that because I know you run some syndicates. I don't know if you're looking for new investors
Yeah.
at all, but you also have your book. So how can our listeners get in contact with you?
You got it. There's three different ways. LinkedIn, feel free, add me on LinkedIn. That's one of the easiest ways to keep in contact with what I'm doing and kind of and stay somewhat connected there. Number two is a sign up to become an investor in the syndicate of influence.vc. So just go to influence.vc. You can sign up there and become an investor. Or even just see the deal flow. So sign up for the newsletter and you can just get the deal flow. And then number three is fatherhoodmovement.com. We're going to have a text-based service to help you become a better father, to help you awaken to some of these realizations. So you sign up with your email and your text on fatherhoodmovement.com. And that's where I want to go. So let's get connected.
Let's do it.
Happy to see you guys on socials. Thanks for having me on the show, man.
Hey, Bubba. No, I appreciate it. This was a fantastic episode, and I wish you the best of luck and everything. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc., Schramm Financial Group, is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services. Any opinions of those are of the speaker and not necessarily those of Raymond James. This material is being provided for informational purposes only and is not a complete description, nor is it a recommendation. There is no guarantee that these statements, opinions, or forecasts provided will prove to be correct. Investing involves risk, and you may incur a profit or a loss regardless of strategy selected. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Prior to making an investment decision, please consult with your financial advisor about your individual situation. Raymond James is not affiliated with any guests on this podcast.